Hi everyone, today I'm going to look at the forgotten fruit medlar or mispel. Medlar fruits are part of heritage fruits such as apple, pears and many more. In our garden we have many heritage fruit trees and one of them is the mispel or medlar tree. Medlar fruits were very popular during the Roman, Middle Ages and Victorian times, but it soon lost its popularity. In spring, medlar has beautiful white flowers and in summer it produces fruit. You cannot just eat the fruit, you have to let it go through a process called bleating. So before I go into explaining the process of bleating, I'm going to quickly pick the medlar and go inside as it is really cold outside and my hands are frozen. So please bear with me while I pick the fruit. Okay, so now I'm in my warm kitchen and I can just explain to you what are medlars and the process of bleating. So with medlar mispel fruit, you only use the fruit that is really ripe and has gone through the process called bleating or belated. So once it's gone through the bleating process, when you press the fruit, when you squeeze it, the fruit will come out. It will be all mushy and ready to be eaten. You can either eat it fresh or you can use it in cooking such as jam, jellies, or even make medlar cheese. And it's used in cosmetics as well. So here I have the ripe medlar and this is the bottom part and the pointy part is the top part. So when it's gone through the process of bleating, some people pick it half ripe and they leave it in a dark place, spread out individually and let it ripe until the inside of the fruit has gone all mushy. So here I'm showing you an example that when it's unripe, the fruit is very hard. And when it's gone through the process of bleating, so bleating means that you are letting the inside of the fruit rotten and the color of the fruit will be different as to the unripe fruit. So the unripe fruit color will be nice and golden brown color, whereas the ripe or bleated fruit will be in dark brown color. The fruit tastes between an apple and a pear. Okay, so what am I going to do with this fruit now? I've never made anything with medlar and I really haven't got a clue what to do. So I did some research and I found that much easier to do with medlar would be to make jelly, as in the past I've made jams and jellies. So that's what I'm going to do with this medlar. Come along and let me share that with you, how I made this jelly. Next thing I did was to wash the medlar and check the fruit, that the fruits were all ripe, and also check the outer part of this fruit, that the skin did not have any black spots, and I just left the whole fruit in a big pot including the seeds and everything. Next thing I did was I filled the pot with water and making sure that there was enough water to cover medlars. So next thing, I put the pot at the highest temperature as I wanted to bring it to boil, and I made one mistake because I was using the spoon and you can see that in the video that the fruit has come out from the skin, which you try to avoid. So when you press the medlar, do it gently because they're so ripe. So the pulp will come out and you don't want the pulp to come out because when you're making jelly, you want the jelly to be clear. So for that reason, just be careful because you don't want the fruit to get into the jelly. You want the flavor. So be very, very careful. There might be times you might need to stir the medlar, which is fine, but do it gently. And some pulp will come out, but it's okay. So once you bring the medlar to the simmering temperature, you let it cook for further 45 minutes. So next thing I did was I prepared myself a sieve. To do that, you need a container, and in the container I placed a sieve which was covered with 3 layers of muslin cloth, and the 3 layers of muslin cloth will give a clear liquid, and that's what you want when making jelly. After 45 minutes, the medlar juice was done, and we poured the liquid in the sieve and we left it overnight. After 12 to 13 hours, I checked if all the juice was strained through the muslin cloth, and I was very surprised to find that I had a lot of juice in the container. And when I measured how much juice I had about 2 liters of medlar flavor juice in the pot. So next thing, I was very curious to try the medlar liquid because it looked very syrupy, and it looked like quite thick as well. So I was quite curious whether it was sweet, but it wasn't that sweet. It was fruity, and it had a mild flavor of medlar fruit, but it was not sweet, but it was quite pleasant. Next thing I wanted to check was the pulp, that if there was still any liquid left, so if it was still moist. But no, it had strained all the liquid from it, and it was very dry. People use this pulp to make medlar jam or also medlar cheese, but I think I will leave that for next year. For making jelly, I prepared my sterilized jam jars so that once the jelly was ready, I could immediately pour it into the jam jars. I decided to use only 1 liter of medlar liquid to make the jelly, and to that I added 500 grams of sugar and a juice of whole lemon. So next thing, like making any jams and jellies, I waited for the sugar to dissolve in the liquid, so the medlar liquid, and also waited until it came to the boiling point. So once the liquid was boiling, I reduced it to a simmering stage and was waiting for the sugar and the medlar juice to convert into jelly, and constantly stirring all the time. Before I started doing that, I had already put a saucer in the freezer to test. So, like when you test the jelly to see if the jelly is done. So you take the saucer out from the freezer and you put a little bit of your jelly in the saucer and wait for few seconds, and then you push the jelly to see, and if the jelly forms the skin and comes together, that's when your jelly is done. It took about 25 minutes for the jelly to set, and I could tell by the test. So immediately I took it off the heat, and with a ladle I filled all the jars and covered them up with the lid. While it's really warm, just cover the top so that seals it, and only open it when you're going to use it. So look at it, such a beautiful golden color. 1 liter of medlar juice, I made 3.5 jars of Medlar jelly. I was very pleased with it. It had a beautiful golden color. It looked like honey. I waited until next morning, and then we had the Medlar jelly with some fresh bread. I still had another liter of Medlar juice left, so I went ahead and made further 2 different flavors of Medlar jelly. One was with orange and lemon peel jelly, and the second one was with chai masala flavor jelly. So really enjoyed cooking with Medlar fruit, and I'm sure I will again next year make something. So I hope you have a go at planting the forgotten fruits such as medlar, apple, pears and plums. Until next time, be safe and Merry Christmas to you all.